Well, I hope everyone had a very nice day yesterday, a good Valentine's Day, however you spent it, whatever exactly that might mean in your life. All right, here's a confession. I admit to you that over recent weeks I've been hitting in my sermons a rather prophetical note that, if not too shrill for the truth of things, which I believe, not too shrill, then at least perhaps a little too single-minded. Christian life, Jesus life, church life, worship life are all more than this, more than speaking truth to power. They comprise at least this, the prophetic call to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, as they say. But these alone are not the measure of us. We are people of grace, not only sound judgment. We are people of peace, not only confrontation. Of solace, not only struggle. And of the heart as well as the head. Well, this sermon is all about the heart here on this Valentine's weekend, as we recall that the love which binds us in its many forms is far more potent and enduring than all the hatred and the animus and the malice prevailing these days in both public discourse and public policy. All of this is to claim, as we begin here today, that Paul, in his epistle called Corinthians chapter 13, that Paul was right. The great constant across the ravages of time, the uniting thread through all gain and loss and change, has been love. Love. But naturally, before we proceed from here this morning, we ought to revisit what we mean when we say and talk about love, what Paul means by love. Because a lot of things pass for love in our culture, where this virtue can be rather thoroughly cheapened and relativized and rendered mushy, sexy, shallow. Love and Victoria's Secret. Love and a BMW 840i X-Drive convertible. Love and dark chocolate. Well, now wait a minute. Maybe that's a good one. I like that one. Yet, you and I still carry this optimism, despite all of that, an optimism about love that we can't shake. At least I hope we can't. Maybe it's our upbringing. Maybe it's our wishful thinking. But we cannot help but resonate with the idealism of Mother Teresa in the bulletin quote, if you saw it, of love as unconditional, selfless action on behalf of others, needing no other justification, no other vindication or verification. Oh, that kind of love, which still rings true in our lives sometime, somehow, right? The church, of course, has kind of added to some confusion about all of this. It has tied the so-called love chapter of 1 Corinthians 13 so often to weddings, to couple love, where it smacks of a kind of quasi-Christian sentimentality. For when you hear these verses about love only out of context, like at a 1-hour pageant on a Saturday afternoon in June, they take on a kind of unreality. 1 Corinthians 13 becomes a glorified photo op, not love practiced sacrificially, courageously, dangerously. We pound the real passion out of it until it no longer grabs us or shakes us to our core, changes us. It's good to remember then, as I shared with the kids, that before it became grafted into every sappy wedding liturgy on the planet, 1 Corinthians 13 was addressed to the church, to the body. It was Paul's way of reminding the church amid internal debates about gifts and giftedness, just what to value and what to scorn. That there is everything else, and then there is love. And not just any love, but the special love we associate with gospel. Now, the Greeks had this rich vocabulary for love. Love was eros, sexual love. Philia, brotherly and sisterly love. It was agape, too, though, sacrificial, self-giving, unconditional love. Love not for what you get in return. Love not just for your people, our people, but all people, from dear friends and family to total strangers to maybe even enemies. Enemies. Distracted by love on parade at weddings, we miss love's ragged edge. The ragged edge that served the early church well through its infancy, through its trials, its struggle. And here in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul holds himself up as kind of an exemplar of this love. Paul loves to do this. I hate it when Paul does this. And here at least, though, he's doing a little better than average for Paul, because rather than his usual, hey, look at me, we get, see, I do all of this. Okay, better than the rest of you, sure. But even so, even I am still nothing. I'm nothing without love. It's savvy of Paul, I suppose, to speak of his own measure of love as at least hypothetically a shortcoming. If I have not love, I don't gain anything. I am nothing. I'm just so much noise. So much noise. Noisy gong, clanging cymbal. It helps some of us who struggle with Paul also that he compares himself to an annoying musical instrument at all. Although as a preacher, musician, I'm a little sensitive to the analogy. What I just told the kids notwithstanding, I wouldn't want anyone here to get carried away with Paul's analogy, to confuse his words with, say stringed instruments. I'm not a percussionist. I don't play the trumpet. I always laugh at George Bernard Shaw's famous definition of a gentleman, someone who can play the saxophone but doesn't. Still, I've heard the sound of a violin compared to whining cats. And even this wouldn't bother me so much, except the person making up the analogy is my wife. Yeah, I know, it's hard. I guess I'm just lucky that when Paul wrote these words, stringed instruments like the violin, at least, had not yet been invented. As Christians in community, of course, we have long struggled with tone, with the tone of our words, with the timbre of our deeds. When it comes to human relationships, we're sometimes rather tone deaf. In our legacy as a people here at Cumberland, as in every faith family, there has resided a tone deafness at times. We're prone to misunderstanding. We can say and mean one thing, but others might hear something else. People speak to us with a certain intention, but we might read in their words something else, something different. We're frail. We're fragile. And love, for all of our intuitions about it, does not come so naturally for us. But Paul wants us to believe something more, that love is a charisma, that fabulous Greek word that we translate as gift, but that doesn't seem to cut it. It's really so much more. I've struggled with how to translate it. I think of it kind of as a spirit-imbued power, a spirit-imbued wonder. And while like all gifts, love, like a musical instrument, has to be practiced and perfected, love is a gift of the Spirit, a gift of the Spirit, nonetheless. Now, as I've already bemoaned, 1 Corinthians 13 got ruined, almost, as the glib go-to at quasi-Christian wedding ceremonies. But most ministers, including me, and I've talked to ministers about this through the years, feel a stronger calling to ministering at funerals by far than weddings, any day. At weddings, love can seem so sugar-coated. At funerals, it is raw. It is real. Somehow, it is in the face of death that the love governing our lives comes more clearly into focus. Do you know what I mean? There's something about that. And yet love remains fundamentally the purview of the living. And as mysterious as it feels, you and I still do know what we do know it when we see it. Love is the ministry of a stranger who stops on the roadside to help you, or maybe one of your kids with a flat tire or a dead battery or an engine problem. It's the ministry of our COME program and its volunteers who, week after week, month after month, fill bags with food to distribute on Wednesdays. It is the people of Minneapolis and Indianapolis, or so many places in this still great land, standing up, standing for, standing with those being hunted, harassed, taken, as if their humanity counts for nothing. It is the love of Jesus, who was never a doormat, but ever a doorway, an invitation to love's fullest, freest expression in human life, which we can follow down any hard road for the sake of others. This is the love of Jesus. This is the love the Apostle Paul spoke of. It is agape love, self-giving love. And just maybe it's a sham. Possibly. The generous-hearted people in our lives are just assuaging their own guilt. Maybe they're looking for accolades. Maybe they're running some Wall Street level cost-benefit calculation that says the push and pull of kindness might pay you a bigger dividend in the end. Altruism in general gets painted this way, is not real, is not genuinely what it seems to be. Who can say for sure? And with generative AI, we may already be at risk of completely losing any objectivity about love at all or anything else. Except love, in one form or one way of thinking about it, isn't finally an objective reality. In one way of thinking about it, it's subjective to the core. It's felt, like where the right notes on a violin are in tune. It's felt, it's done, it's experienced in the intuition that the other is not an object, the intuition that the other is a subject of ultimate concern to us all. Meanwhile, with my nod to the prophetic side of things, which you knew was coming, I look around now as you do, I know, and I am witnessing humanity's inhumanity. A busily unspooling republic, hastened along by a failure of heart, of both courage and compassion. What are we doing? What is America thinking? And so I lose heart, but not really. Because in Jesus and in all those I admire, what I still see, is the cost of love counted and acknowledged up front. I see this everywhere, including and increasingly here in you, Cumberland. You practice these things because they are good and right to do. And because you've come to believe that anything else that matters, anything else of ultimate concern, will follow in stride if we're willing to love. I mean, either love, as Paul describes it in 1 Corinthians, and as Jesus lived and died for it, either it is the supreme truth of all things, or it's a pipe dream. Either it is the essence of sanity, or it is madness. We can't be entirely sure. But we can surely live out our faith that the former is so. That the truest of true things this Valentine's weekend is, as Paul puts it, patient love, kind love, non-arrogant, non-boastful, or irritable or resentful. Love. Love that rejoices in the truth. Love that bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love that never ends. Amen.